In the spine of the mountains moves a walking avalanche, a massive bear that smashes bones and owns entire valleys as its range. This is the grizzly bear. This is a force of nature. Our question: how can one animal, Ursus arctos horribilis, become both landscape tyrant and bone-crushing engine? Tonight we follow claws, jaws, and instincts to answer that mystery. Think colossal mass, relentless appetite, and the anatomy of a predator built like a siege engine. The grizzly is not merely big. It is engineered to dominate valleys and shatter life. We will peel away fur and myth, from muscle and tooth to brain and behavior, to reveal how brutality and biology fuse into a valley's ruler. This is not a feel-good portrait. Expect shock, fascination, and clinical explanation. Every trait exists for survival, and survival here looks like violence and mechanical power. Across these chapters we trace anatomy, senses, hunting, social life, reproduction, and the ecological fallout of an animal that can crush a carcass like a hammer. Pay attention to scale. An adult male can exceed 300 kilograms and carry momentum that turns trees and prey into disposable objects. That momentum is central to our question. Valleys remember them. Trails are carved by heavy steps. Streams change course under their weight. To own a valley is to shape it with tooth and paw. How do jaws, claws, and senses combine so a bear can crush bone and rule miles of wilderness? That single curiosity will thread every scene of this descent into brutal biology. First, the machine itself. Meet the skeleton, the muscles, and the deadly tools of the grizzly. Anatomy holds the blueprint for destruction and dominion. Grizzlies are bulk incarnate. Bones thick as clubs, limbs like carved oak. Mass lets them topple obstacles and overpower prey. Physics is their invisible ally in every charge. Their skulls are a fortress, reinforced zygomatic arches, thick jaw bones, massive temporalis muscles. That skull channels force, turning a bite into a bone-smashing instrument. Molars built to grind, yet can crush. Canines that pierce and hold. The grizzly's dentition is a hybrid. Omnivore tools optimized for sudden carnivory and terrible strength. Claws extend 5 inches or more, curved and thick. They are excavators, weapons, and grapplers. With a single swipe, a paw can tear open flesh or collapse ribcages. Muscle mass concentrates in forequarters, shoulders and neck built for raw power. They lift boulders, flip logs, and apply brute force where subtlety would fail. Leg bones are stout and straight. Spine is rigid. That rigidity transmits force directly into a stomp or charge, maximizing impact with every heavy step. Dense fur and deep hide buffer cold and blunt trauma. Under that pelt, fat stores fuel for long campaigns of foraging and fasting across vast ranges. A digestive tract built for flexibility. Plant matter, meat, insects. But when protein and fat are available, the system shifts, soaking up calories at astonishing speed for winter. Hyper-efficient fat deposition is key. Grizzlies can gain hundreds of kilograms of fat in months, converting mountains of food into the insulated mass that defines them. Brains matter, not just brawn. The grizzly's neural architecture blends instinct, learning, and surprising problem-solving that make them cunning hunters and adaptable omnivores. The limbic system fuels aggression and memory. The cortex supports complex foraging choices. They remember salmon runs, human campsites, and routes across their domain. Senses turn brute force into precision. Their nose is a biological search engine, their hearing acute. Sight is secondary but effective at detecting movement and contrast. A grizzly's olfactory bulbs are enormous. They can detect scents miles away, locate carcasses under snow, and home in on food caches left by other animals. They hear subtle shifts, a rodent in soil, a salmon leap. Hearing aids in ambushes and territorial assessments, revealing prey long before the eyes lock in. Vision in low light is functional, tuned to motion. For a charging bear, detecting movement and depth at close range is what matters most. Endurance is surprising. Despite size, grizzlies can trot for miles, chase ungulates over uneven ground, and sustain long foraging binges across a valley. Field tests show they can flip logs, tear apart beehives, and drag carcasses heavier than themselves. Strength is distributed, not just in jaws, but through a whole body system. Thermoregulation via fat and fur allows extremes, summer exertion and winter dormancy. Hibernation is a metabolic pause that preserves muscle and fat for cycles ahead. All these parts combine to answer our puzzle. Mass, tools, and sensors produce an animal capable of crushing bone and shaping landscapes into its hunting grounds. Anatomy explains capacity. Behavior shows how it's used. Next, we watch the grizzly hunt, scavenge, and command territory, often with terrifying efficiency. Grizzlies are opportunists and ambush predators. They combine stealth, power, and timing, waiting, lunging, and unleashing force in seconds that decide life or death. On salmon streams, they stand like statues. A precise swipe, a throat bite, then the fish is crushed. Repetition turns rivers into feeding theaters of raw efficiency. Chasing ungulates is brutal theater. Short bursts of ferocious speed, a destabilizing swipe, a bite to the neck. A single misstep from prey becomes fatal. Scavenging amplifies their impact. Bears find carcasses, tear through bone, and outcompete wolves and birds. Their jaws pulverize marrow, leaving little for others. Omnivory is adaptive cruelty. Roots, berries, and insects provides resilience. But when protein is abundant, behaviors pivot to carnivorous aggression and bone-breaking consumption. Ambushes exploit terrain. Bears use slopes, vegetation, and surprise. A low, silent approach followed by explosive force means prey rarely has time to assess danger. Owning a valley is both movement and message. Scents, scat, and ripped vegetation mark boundaries. Other animals learn quickly to avoid the domain of a dominant grizzly. Human presence warps behavior. Food-conditioned bears lose fear, approach camps, and can become aggressive. That intersection of habitat and appetite is deadly for both parties. Grizzlies are inventive. They open car doors, dismantle coolers, and devise routes to caches. Intelligence multiplies threat. Brute force plus human access skills equals disaster. Field footage shows rapid dismantling of carcasses, strategic waits at migration choke points, and violent swipes that collapse thoraxes. Predation is efficient and merciless. They switch tactics. Solitary ambush one day, bold scavenger the next. Flexibility is a weapon. When one food fails, another strategy fills the caloric gap. Against wolves or cougars, size and aggression win. Bears bulldoze opponents, drive off scavengers, and monopolize kills, essentially rewriting the rules of competition. Juveniles practice with play fights that teach crushing techniques and defensive responses. Roughhousing is rehearsal for the real violence of survival in a harsh landscape. They process food with methodical force, rip, tear, pulverize. Bone and marrow are targeted. Nothing of high calorie value escapes their attention long. Every movement is an energy calculation. The goal is fat. Brute force is investment. Each kill must yield enough calories to justify the risk and effort. Seasons dictate brutality. Summer is accumulation. Fall is frenzy. In autumn, they enter near constant foraging to stack reserves for the cold void of hibernation. Nocturnal activity increases to avoid humans and to hunt nocturnal prey. Darkness becomes a cover for destruction, as silent steps turn to devastating strikes. Under stress, aggression spikes. Cubs are at risk when mothers are threatened. A cornered bear resorts to all tools: roar, charge, claw, bone-crushing bite. Range can stretch dozens of kilometers. Seasonal migrations track salmon, berries, and elk. Owning a valley means mastering routes and resources across shifting seasons. In some, behavior is the software that runs the anatomical hardware. That software prioritizes calories, territory, and offspring, often through brutal and efficient means. Now, social life. Are these solitary titans social architects or lone tyrants? The answer is nuanced, both solitary and socially influential depending on context. Grizzlies are mostly solitary. Adult males especially patrol alone, their presence felt more than seen. Solitude reduces competition and increases the violence of each encounter. Hierarchies form around prime feeding sites. Dominant males command access. Subordinates test limits, but often defer. A single display can end conflict without bloodshed. Maternal bonds are intense. Sows fiercely defend cubs, teaching them to forage and fight. Cubs learn the mechanics of destruction through direct, violent demonstration. When rivals clash, battles can be lethal. Size, experience, and ferocity decide winners. Territory disputes may end with broken bones or death, reinforcing control over valleys. Temporary tolerances occur at mega-feeding events. Hundreds of animals and occasional multi-bear gatherings around salmon runs show pragmatic cooperation born of abundance. Mating is brief but risky. Males compete fiercely for access to receptive females. Consent is complicated in nature. Males sometimes coerce, with violence shaping reproductive success. Scent marks, visual displays, and vocalizations communicate status. A rubbed tree can say more than teeth. It's a chemical billboard broadcasting presence and intent across the valley. Human expansion forces more contact. Garbage, camps, and roads draw bears into conflict. Where tolerance fails, the hand of death falls, by hunting, removal, or tragic accidents. Social structure is loose, but consequential. Solitary lives punctuated by brutal encounters, opportunistic tolerance, and fierce maternal defense that ensures lineage survival. Reproduction is survival stitched with violence. From mating to cub rearing, the life cycle of a grizzly is a testament to sacrifice, strategy, and merciless selection. Females enter estrus briefly. Males roam vast ranges seeking mates. Encounters can be aggressive. Dominant males secure mating through strength and intimidation more than courtship. Delayed implantation. Fertilized eggs pause development until fat reserves accumulate. This reproductive trick times birth with winter denning and resource scarcity. Cubs are born during hibernation, blind and tiny. The den is a crucible. Mother and cubs survive on fat stores, while the world outside freezes and starves. Cubs nurse for months, then learn to forage, fight, and climb. High juvenile mortality is normal. Predation, starvation, and infanticide by incoming males cull weak lines. Infanticide occurs when new males take over. Killing cubs brings the sow back into estrus sooner, a cold evolutionary strategy that benefits the infanticidal male at great cost. Females adopt strategies, hiding cubs, avoiding males, and aggressive defense. Maternal investment is intense and sometimes fatal when defending offspring from bigger males. Grizzlies mature slowly, sexual maturity around 4 to 8 years. Lifespans in the wild average 2 decades, shaped by human threats and environmental pressures. Reproductive rates are low. Recovery from population declines is slow. Each adult lost is a reduction in both genetic memory and territorial control across valleys. Reproduction fuses brutality and strategy. Delayed implantation, hibernation births, infanticide, and maternal ferocity together shape populations that are resilient yet vulnerable. Beyond individuals, grizzlies sculpt ecosystems. They are keystone modifiers, predators, scavengers, and seed distributors whose presence or absence echoes across valleys. As apex consumers, they regulate prey populations, cull weak animals, and recycle nutrients. Their bone-crushing rewards return marrow to the soil and feed a host of scavengers. Berries eaten and seeds passed in scat create a pattern of plant distribution. Inadvertent gardeners, grizzlies reshape vegetation across their roaming corridors. By dragging carcasses and defecating across ranges, they move nutrients from rivers to uplands, redistributing marine-derived energy deep into inland valleys. Remove them, and ecosystems rebalance, often poorly. Overabundant prey, altered vegetation, and the loss of carcass-driven food webs that sustain dozens of species. Human alteration of landscapes triggers conflict. Roads fragment range, food attractants teach risky behavior, and the result is lethal management decisions that reduce grizzly numbers. Climate change shifts salmon runs, berry crops, and hibernation timing. These disruptions ripple through bear physiology and behavior, intensifying competition and desperation. Their removal can trigger trophic cascades. Unchecked herbivores reshape forests, affecting soil, water, and even microclimate. Grizzlies are architects of balance, and absence reveals their power. Conservation status varies regionally. Some populations persist, others teeter. Human policy, hunting pressure, and habitat loss determine whether valleys keep or lose their walking avalanches. From marrow to mountainside, grizzlies link trophic levels and physical landscapes. Understanding their ecological role reframes them not as monsters, but as vital, terrifying engineers. Now, the moral terrain. How should humans respond to such an animal? Fear, reverence, and exploitation collide, demanding choices with long-term ecological consequences. Management often resorts to lethal removal when conflict arises, but killing a dominant male can fragment social order and increase infanticide, perpetuating a cycle of violence. Captivity attempts to domesticate a wild force. Enclosures cannot erase instincts. Stress, aggression, and stereotypes emerge when an animal bred to roam is confined. Tourism commodifies danger. Viewing platforms and staged encounters alter behavior, teach boldness, and often end with management interventions or human tragedy. Indigenous cultures hold complex relationships with bears, reverence, ritual, and rules of reciprocity. These perspectives challenge modern practices of control and exploitation. We've seen anatomy built for destruction, behavior that exploits force, and an ecological footprint that shapes valleys. the question of ownership, who owns the valley, has an answer in biology. To own a valley is not a trophy, but a process. Scent, memory, and muscle inscribe a grizzly's presence. Their dominion is continuous, maintained by violence and ecological influence. Yet we must ask, should humans accept this rule or impose our own order? Every intervention carries consequences, often amplifying the very problems managers seek to solve. Conservation requires nuance, habitat protection, conflict mitigation, and respect for cultural knowledge. Protecting corridors and reducing attractants helps both humans and these apex engineers. Policy must move beyond eradication. Science-based management, community involvement, and long-term planning can preserve grizzly populations without sacrificing human safety. Remember, a valley without grizzlies is quieter, but not healthier. The loss of bone-crushing consumers rewires ecosystems in irreversible ways, diminishing resilience. Facing a creature that smashes bone and owns valleys forces us to confront our place in the wild. Do we tame, fear, or learn from such raw power? Ursus arctos horribilis combines mass, specialized anatomy, sharpened senses, and flexible behavior to become a landscape-scale predator and ecosystem engineer. Science explains the how. Ethics asks the why. There is beauty in brutality. The efficient cruelty of survival that is neither malicious nor moral, only relentless adaptation. It leaves us equal parts horrified and entranced. If you live near grizzlies, store food, secure garbage, and respect corridors. Small human actions ripple into large outcomes for bear survival and valley health. Underestimate a grizzly at your peril. Their combination of mass, claws, and memory can turn curiosity into catastrophe. Respect their power, because valleys remember the force that walks them. Picture a silhouette on a ridge. Broad shoulders, slow, guaranteed steps. A creature that moves mountains of ecology with a single paw. That image lingers and alters the valley's story. We came to answer how one animal can smash bone and own valleys. The answer lies in anatomy, behavior, and ecological role. An integrated machine of survival and dominance. If you felt shock, curiosity, or fear, use it. Share knowledge, support habitat protections, and listen to indigenous wisdom. The valley's future may depend on our choices. The grizzly bear, Ursus arctos horribilis, remains a walking avalanche with murder claws, a reminder that nature's beauty can be savage, and that surviving here demands both awe and responsibility.